Okay, in lesson 9, we're going to talk about movable power chords. And those meaning power chords that you can move up and down the neck, creating different power chords. So when you're not using open strings, you're going to use your first finger and your third finger to form a power chord. So your first finger on the low E string, let's say first fret for an example, and your third finger would play the third fret on the A string, or the next string down. That makes our root and our fifth interval. Now you can move that chord and it always forms a power chord. So as long as your first finger is on the root note and your third finger is on the fifth, the next string down, you're skipping a fret in between, that'll form a power chord. You can use that with the root note on the low E string, the A string, and the D string are the most commonly used places. Now we can also add our pinky to that, as you can see right there. That, you're not really adding another note, you're just adding the root note again. You're adding the octave, which we've talked about before. So your first finger, third finger, and your pinky right underneath your third finger. And that just kind of, that'll fill out the chord a little bit. Don't have to use it, but it's good to get used to using it. You should practice using it for sure. So you can move these chords pretty much anywhere. So we have our first, a root note. Let's take an A power chord, for example. You have a root note. You count to the fifth note of the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our fifth. And then our octave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can see how all these things relate to the major scale. So don't get in the habit of using your pinky where your third finger should be. A lot of people want to do this. That's kind of a bad habit to get used to, because you're going to need your pinky later to stretch out here and do other things. So always make sure it's your first finger and your third finger. And then if you want to add the octave, use your pinky underneath. Make sure you're on the tips of your fingers and that your fingers are as close behind the fret as you can get. That's a power chord. So let's take a look at how we could use that. Let's just kind of use like a generic example, a common chord progression that you've heard. It's a 1-4-5 progression like we talked about in the 12-bar blues. We're going to do this in the key of G this time. It kind of sounds similar to Wild Thing or Hang On Sloopy or some of those songs. So starting on the G, third fret, low E string. Let's form our power chord there. We're going to use the octave in this case. You can just hit that 3 times. So then we're going to move it down with our root on the A string. That's a C chord. That'd be represented by the Roman numeral 4. We're going to hit that twice. So we're going to go. Then we're going to slide up to the fifth chord. That'd be our fifth interval in the G major scale. That's a D. Form our power chord there. Hit that 3 times. Then we're going to go back to our C. Hit that twice. Now notice, if you notice my pick hand, I'm doing all downstrokes in this case, which is okay. When you're sliding these chords around, you don't even really need to pick your fingers up. Especially if your root note's on the same string. I'm just sliding that up. So power chords are really easy to use. You can learn a ton of songs with power chords. Some good examples of some bands you might like to look up that use power chords all the time. It's Green Day, Nirvana. If you're into classic rock, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, any of those, Led Zeppelin, they all use power chords quite frequently, so you can look that up. It's also easy to make stuff up. You know, you can just slide them around anywhere. So I would encourage you to just play around with those power chords, move them around, get used to them, and I'll see you in lesson 10.